Hey, fourth graders, it's Mrs. Valgarino here, and I'm here to read you one of my favorite books. It's called The Invisible Boy. And what we're going to be doing today as we read The Invisible Boy is we're going to try and identify the theme of this story. So the theme is the lesson, message, or moral of the story. So what is this author trying to teach us or trying to tell us something that we can learn from this book? Okay. As we're reading, we want to ask ourselves as readers a few questions. We want to ask ourselves, how does this character change? So, from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, does this character change? If so, how? And maybe what events in our story caused this character to change? And what are those changes trying to teach us? What is that author trying to teach us? Okay, so I want you to be asking yourself those questions as a reader as I read aloud this story. Okay, all right, let's get started. So, The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig. And I also really like this book because it has really great pictures. So I'll try and hold those up to the camera for you so you can see. Okay. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Mrs. Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She is too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. See if you can see the invisible boy, Brian. Nathan has problems with what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space, and Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball teams. The best players get picked first. Then the best friends of the best players. Then the friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. JT glances in Brian's direction and just as quickly looks away. We've got enough players for each team, he tells the others. Let's play ball. So take a look at the kids playing here and take a look at Brian. Also, what have you noticed in the illustration so far about the difference between Brian and the other kid? In all of the pages, the other kids are drawn in color, and Brian is always just drawn in black and white. So think about, why did the illustrator and the author do that? In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. The rope swing over the pool was awesome, says JT. Yeah, so was the water slide, adds Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm so glad you guys had fun, says Madison. Everyone did except Brian. He wasn't invited. At choosing time, when the other kids play board games and read, Brian sits at his table doing what he loves to do best. He draws fire-breathing dragons scaling tall buildings, space aliens locked in intergalactic battles, greedy pirates digging for treasure, and superheroes with the power to make friends wherever they go. Brian's a really good drawer. On Monday morning, Mrs. Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student, to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend. They haven't quite made up their minds yet. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. What's that? asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. It's bulgogi. Blue what? Bulgogi. Sorry, I pronounced it wrong. It's Korean barbecued beef. My grandma made it for me. It's really good. Do you want to try some? There's no way I eat boogergy. And the kids laugh. All of them. That is, except Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. Justin, I thought the bulgogi looked good. Brian. So think about how Justin felt after that really crummy day, being laughed at by other kids, and then getting this note from Justin. So think about how this note from him made him feel. At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. You're Brian, right? Yeah. Thanks for the note. Hey, Justin, Emilio calls from the tetherball court. You're up next. Sorry, I gotta go, says Justin. By the way, that's a really cool drawing, he adds before taking off. What do you notice about Brian in these pictures? Something has changed about how his character is drawn. He's starting to get a little bit of color. So think about, why is he all of a sudden getting a little bit of color as he talked to Justin just then. Back in class, Mrs. Carlotti asks the kids to team up in twos or threes for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads towards Justin. I'm already with Justin, says Amelia. Find someone else. Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. Mrs. Carlotti said we can have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio. Let him work with us. Okay, I guess. So here, Brian's black and white, right? Because he was kind of rejected for being in that group, and then they include him, and he's starting to get some color. Mrs. Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in that photograph. Use your imagination and have fun. Whoa, cool, says Emilio. What kind of people do you think would live in the house like this? I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go with our story, says Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. The crooked story we made up on the spot. There's a picture. I really like this picture of them with all of their like hats on and their cool pictures that Brian helped draw. And if you look at their faces, they look really excited to share with their classmates and really excited about the project they made. You can see them working together over here, having fun working on this project as a team. It's lunchtime again, Brian's least favorite part of the day. Why do you think that would be Brian's least favorite part of the day? Another 20 long minutes of kids talking and laughing with everyone else but him. Brian! He hears someone shout. Hey, Brian, over here! Brian turns and sees Justin waving him over. Emilio nods at Brian as he makes room for him at the table. Cookie? Thanks. Maybe, just maybe, Brian's not so invisible after all. Okay, so that is the invisible boy. So I want you to think about our character Brian. How did he change from the beginning of the story to the end? One really obvious way that I pointed out in the illustrations and that you probably noticed is he started out black and white. He's drawn in our story without any color. Okay, and then there's a few moments throughout the story when he is given a little bit of color. Okay, like in here. Okay, he's not fully colored, but he's given a little bit of color. And then by the end, we look at Brian. He has full color, just like the other kids. So think about, what does that color represent? How did Brian change? Okay, I want you to think about that. How did our character change? So Brian starts out black and white because he feels invisible, right? He doesn't feel noticed by other kids. He's not included in the kickball games. He is laughed at or ignored or made fun of in class, and just feels invisible, okay? And then he starts to get a little color. A new student comes, right? And they start to kind of develop a friendship and notice each other a little bit more. And then at the end, he is full of color because he is included in a group project and he's a part of a group and he's invited to sit with them at lunch and he is finally included. So, knowing this, how our characters change, what do you think the theme is of this story? So, the theme of this story is, I would say, is probably kindness or including others. So, one thing we can learn from Brian is that when we include others and we show kindness, um, it helps make people feel good, right? It helps make people noticed. We want to make people feel like the Brian at the end of the story rather than the Brian at the beginning of the story. So I think what the author is trying to teach us here is to show kindness to everyone. Whether you're best friends with them or not, to show kindness to everyone and include others, I think would be our theme. So good readers also find clues to go with what they think to support their thinking. So some clues from the story to support our theme of kindness and including others is we could say that at the beginning, when Brian isn't included on a kickball team, he is sad, right? We take a look at this picture. He's black and white. He's walking away sad. So a clue could be after being excluded from the kickball game, Brian is sad and walks away with no one to play with. Okay. Another clue could be that when Brian's included in that group project, he feels happy. If we look at our pictures, he feels excited. He has color and his talents, his drawing talents are being recognized. So when he's included on the group project, he feels happy, he feels valued, and he has color, right? He's not invisible anymore. So that could be another clue that goes with that. And there's lots of other ones we could continue to find. We could talk about how he's included at lunch, how that makes him feel really good. Okay, so there's tons of clues in the story that support our theme of kindness and including others. Okay, so this Read Aloud is supposed to help you think about theme, see some examples of theme, and help find that in the stories that you're reading. And you're actually going to practice finding theme using some songs, which should be really fun. Okay, so thanks for listening, fourth graders. See you later.